one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best? There is no second best.
This is Discover Crypto, and some might say this is the start of the bear market. Hit that like button, everybody. I'm your host, DZ. We have a major show today. We got to talk about what is going to happen to Bitcoin after the failed October. Will it lead to a red November, red December? But can there be a light at the end of the tunnel? Will liquidity pull us out of this bear market? Will AI pull us out of this bear market? And we have CZ trying to top blast a token. Is he out there shilling? We're going to talk about that as well. There's a major crypto hack as well. And I'm joined here by TJ. TJ, how are you doing on this red day? I hate to cut you off real quick, but this is here, let me look at this candle. This is the 1 minute candle. TJ, how are you feeling today after seeing this?
Yeah, I am. I'm happy to be here. Feeling good to be with the Disco fam. I saw the comments as we were rolling in that, yeah, it's GG, game over. It's rough out there on the streets. More blood in the water. Which, man, yeah, when you zoom in on the 1 minute, that looks brutal. What's the price coming in right now?
We dipped below 106, coming in at 105,900 right now.
Wow, that's getting harsh. It's getting scary out there. I'm happy to be here. I am still accumulating. Yeah, dumped over red Vember. Yeah, I like that comment because, yeah, October, obviously, traditionally one of the best months for Bitcoin. Rain or shine, bull market, bear market, doesn't really matter. Bitcoin does well in Q4. Well, that was not true in October. And so far, early in November, we're not heading up in November either. But let us know in the chat. What do you guys think? Do you think it's over? I saw a lot of comments as we were rolling in. People saying, GG, we're done. It's over. I do have this poll running here on X kind of saying, will November be bullish or bearish? Obviously, you guys can kind of see some people on X still bullish, but let us know.
I think bullish? YouTube's going to be more bearish. Type in bullish, type in bearish. You know, are we going to come in 62% feeling green today? I'm thinking a little closer to 50-50, TJ.
Yeah, it's going to be close. And we do have a little bit later one of our longtime members, Crypto Crank, one of the best traders out there in our Discord and other places. He's got his own channel as well. He's going to kind of lay out a couple different scenarios of like, what's the dump scenario? What is the stagnant scenario or sideways scenario? And what is the bullish scenario? All right, so we got some neutral, some bullish. I've got a lot of friends of mine that have been texting me that have been in this space for a very long time. They're saying they're starting to sell out or they're completely out or they're looking for shorts, all that sort of thing. So I'm still obviously dangerously, irresponsibly long, I guess they would say. I am in this for the long term and not getting shaken out just yet. I am still buying and accumulating. I do like prices in this under 108, but above 100. I'm not going all in because I do think if we lose, you know, those 300-day, 50-week moving averages, things could get dicey, which we'll look at a little bit later in the show. But smash the likes if you appreciate the fact that we're here every single day, regardless of what the market's doing. So whether the market's going up, down, or sideways, we're going to be here talking crypto, giving our thoughts, and hearing your thoughts as well, sharing with the Disco fam. You got to appreciate having other maybe we're all retarded for doing this all day every day, but at least we've got retarded friends that come hang out with us. So.
All right, we got DZ's Peanuts in here. Don't worry, October has come in. It was 2026, 2029. That's what he was talking about there. I did a lot of work earlier this morning, TJ, that might be slightly invalidated. You can see a little bit of action on the 1 minute chart, but when we go to the 24 minute, you'll see, oh, okay, we were kind of working off a trend line. We had a brief pause here. This is going to be a level I'm looking at Bitcoin to reclaim. One of the reasons isn't just because, oh, well, we were here 4 days ago. If you zoom out, you'll see, oh, okay, this is actually showing a little bit more confluence than one might originally suspect. But when you go even further, it keeps doing it, TJ. You'll also notice it also hit about right here. Again, we're just kind of touching the bottoms. But TJ, I'm not done. When you go the daily, now we're really talking about some sharp angles here. Just again, we're kind of touching from here, touching the bottom there. Look at that, TJ. So this is an important level. I kind of quit doing it then. I didn't expect it to go much further. Yeah, but either way, we're talking about a trend line first established during the April lows, wick to it October 11th, and now we're coming down and we're revisiting this area, TJ. So very, very important line for Bitcoin. And right now we're kind of falling below. I don't think anyone else has seen this area. So this might be an area, if we are in a bearish environment, coming up, retesting this might be a possible short scenario there.
Yeah, it's getting rough, and we should go ahead and pull up CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko and look, because some of the altcoins are absolute.
We got to hit refresh, make sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is starting to look a little ugly. Bitcoin's down 3.8, ETH is down 6.4, BNB almost down 10%, as well as Solana almost 10%. We have Dogecoin and Cardano, all of these coins down 9%. Tron kind of holding on a little bit strong here. We keep scrolling. We see Chainlink double digits. Might scoop up some $15 Chainlink. We did get some $17 Chainlink. I don't mind if it's $2 lower. Just kind of continue to DCA in. And when you're looking for gainers,
not a good sign.
Hey, you know what? I didn't listen to the Disco Fam. I top blasted in on Friday.
To
Huge
Zcash?
ups, yes. In my research, we're going to talk about Zcash a little bit later. But folks, if you didn't watch the Zcash video, you are missing out on the alpha. Tell you why I am bullish. At least looks like gold holding on to that $4,000 range. And we look at who's getting beat down the worst. It is Aster, quite a disaster. And Trump's World Liberty Fi also down. Aptos down. Pepe down. Pump, Mano, Arb, Link. Very surprised to see Chainlink performing so poorly here, TJ. Any theories on Chainlink?
No, I mean, that's kind of what I was looking at too. Chainlink was one of the ones hit the hardest. $15 Chainlink. We saw it wick down extremely low the other day. Solana down 8%, BNB, a lot of the strong projects 8-9%. I do think the market is somewhat exhausted. I do know, I can see it in the chat. People are saying I'm just exhausted, I'm getting whiplash. You could argue this is some institutional accumulation. I mean, Avalanche is another one I've had my eye on. It's getting down to the very bottom of its range. If we pull this up, I mean, it's down almost as low. I mean, look, this is the everything chart, so like even it's at $11 before in 2021, so it's getting almost as low as it was in the bear market bottom. I mean, I guess it got sub $10, but I mean, a $16, if you just look in the last year, this is about as low as it's been in quite some time. This was one I'm planning to grab a pretty good stack of. I do think they're doing a lot of good business development and have a lot of good inroads, but overall, yeah, seeing this, I mean, this is the definition of blood on the streets. I'm curious. Fear and greed index here, looking at 36, which is, I mean, you could argue it feels like it should be in lower than 36, like in the low 30s or high 20s. 25 is what it feels like, and maybe it'll adjust if we keep on this trend. So yeah, this much blood is generally good accumulation zones, but it's getting to that point where it's kind of getting scary. I'll be honest, I still see a lot of macro indicators that have me feeling that mid-November, whenever the government shutdown ends and the market structure bill comes out, we could see a very, very, very quick and fast move, a bullish catalyst. I do believe the Fed QE comes into play. They may not call it QE, but the expansion of their balance sheet, I guess I should say. I do believe we're going to see that soon, because if you think we're in a scary position in the crypto market, it's way more scary if you're looking at the banking sector and how many banks are on the verge of going under right now. And I do not believe they will let that happen. I do think they will shift into saving that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But that's kind of the thing I'm watching is, will the Fed continue to stimulate things? And if they don't, and sometimes it takes longer than it feels like it should, right? Like if we saw it start to happen in late 2019, and obviously by March of 2020, it was still very, very dicey. We didn't see it start kicking in till May, I would say, of 2020 and then onward. So it's getting close to that pivotal point where I'm glad I've got a fair amount of cash on the sidelines. I am buying some on these dips because I do believe we will rebound. But if we don't, you could be seeing some of those 80K levels, 70, 69K levels, some of those very scary. Even the title's talking about 90K. There's some much lower levels out there that aren't outside of the realm of possibility. So it is worth mentioning to people out there. I do not think these are sell levels, in my opinion. Like this is something you guys hear me say all the time. Always check your conviction in crypto, understand why you got into this, have a long-term mindset if you're investing. If you're in altcoins and you're speculating and you're day trading, yeah, you should be probably checking those levels and being careful. But if it's Bitcoin, if it's things like Chainlink that you plan to hold for a long period of time, I'm not walking away into dollars at this point. Because again, dollars are getting inflated just as bad, and I would argue coming in 2026, it's going to be an insane, amount of money printing that comes in and inflation of the dollar. So, for me, I'm waiting for some really good. I'm buying here, and if it goes lower, I'm buying more, but I'm not selling. Never sell your Bitcoin. I think that's the one advice I would give you. If you're in some random meme coin that you don't know anything about, or that is just pure speculation, yeah, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
All right. What do we think the bottom is for Chainlink? That might be a good video. How low can it go? Now, let's talk about the monthly returns. I did want to freak everybody out. I wanted to scare you here. This isn't the nicest news here. Now, when you go, last time we had a red October, we fell 3%. Our recent red October, we fell 3%. Last time October was red 3%. November was in the negative 36% dump.
Jeez.
So that is just something we've only had. That is going to be 2018. We only had one other time of a red October, and that was going to be 2014. But that led to a 12% pump. So very, very limited data. But when you look at that, not exactly, flowers and sunshine. But we do have some flowers and sunshines with the bull market peak indicators still at 0 at 30. But some of these you might have to just reassess. I don't know if all of these are going to play out. Rainbow chart. I don't think that one's going to trigger. Might be worth a video there. I might need to do a little investigation. But where are we heading? Is Bitcoin heading for the worst Q4 since 22? Well, we just saw the monthly returns. If it repeats, that is going to be very negative. The month closed with Bitcoin down about 3.6%. First red October since 2018. Why did we fall? Well, a couple theories out here. One is going to be the U.S.-China trade confrontation did intensify after the 100% tariffs. Also, at the same time, Federal Reserve signal might slow the pace of interest rate cuts. That came straight from Jerome Powell's mouth last week. That stance strengthened the dollar and increased the appeal of yield-bearing assets. When there's an appeal in yield-bearing assets, that's going to put a little bit of pressure on Bitcoin. As a result, October streak is over, and what's usually a very positive month for Bitcoin. But if you look, just kind of forward facing, the near term direction depends on how heavily 107, 108 holds. Well, how did it hold? Not too well. We need to get above. We need to get above very quickly because a breakdown below could trigger a sharper correction, while stability could set up the next leg higher. And we have a lot of signs. What TJ said, we got a lot of signs that we might see some positive action. But the main reason, at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. So where's the sell side pressure coming from? Because we know China, Trump, okay, that's going to spook some investors. All right, Jerome Powell said a sentence, that's going to spook some investors. But at the end of the day, you need sells. You need that sell operator. Who is that? Long-term holders have been the ones selling. Sold 405,000 Bitcoin over the last 30 days. You can see, capitulation right here. We have dipped a lot lower before. But essentially, we can expect a nice little pump thus far. I don't know if that's going to continue forever, but I mean, that's where we're at with the long-term sellers. Kind of breaking it down, the on-chain data, they sold in dollars, $33 billion worth of Bitcoin. It's going to be $1 billion daily selling pressure. And these are from wallets that survive multiple cycles. These aren't weak hands. These are OGs. When crypto Twitter was shouting new all-time high, smart money was exiting. On-chain doesn't lie. Data speaks before price. Stop chasing the stories. Follow the flow. But when does the flow end? That is, to me, is going to be the bigger question. Now, you can see, we usually when it finds a bottom, it does go a little bit lower. You can see right here. I mean, the bottom of whale selling isn't the bottom for prices. When they start to accumulate, that's when we start to see, a huge takeoff. Because if you think about it, even when it's moving up, this is still net selling. This is still net selling. It's just the net selling is decreasing. $1 million question, TJ. $1 billion question. Is the net sell going to start decreasing now? Or are we going to wick down a lot lower? I don't know if you have any theories here. Are we going to see the huge red amount of selling? Or is the worst behind us?
I think my gut says the worst is behind us. I not ruling out that we wick down though. Like I think it could still be both. I do think there's a lot of evidence that major OG Bitcoiners are selling. I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the comments rolling through, but some of the interesting ones. Somebody says here, the real crypto community that understands the cycle is selling, and this is an interesting theory because while that is true, we are seeing everybody thought October was going to be bullish, right? Oh, October.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
traditionally
it started
bullish.
green. Oh yeah, out the gates. Woo!
Cycles, 4-year cycle theory says it's always bullish, and it wasn't.
Yeah, then some a-hole on 4chan had to make a prediction years ago that we're going to top October 6th.
Now everybody is sure that the 4-year cycle's over. We're going to be bullish or bearish November, December, and that's one of the things that has me giving me a lot of pause is bear markets don't start when everyone's bearish.
Yeah.
That's when they end.
The top isn't in when everyone thinks it's the top. The top is never in when everyone thinks it's the top.
No.
You always think there's another leg up.
Exactly. And bear markets end when everybody is like tapping out, giving up. And it's more like that. We're feeling the exhaustion now of what feels like the end of a bearish period, not what feels like the end of a bullish period. So that's one thing. It's like it almost, if you fade CT sentiment is generally not accurate, or retail sentiment is generally not accurate. So everybody that saying for sure the 4-year cycle, it's intact and we're going back down into a bear market, like it almost always doesn't work the way everybody believes it is. So on that level, I don't believe it's over. Now, I will say, anecdotally, just the feeling, it does feel bad. There's a lot of negative news. It feels like no matter what happens, you got Trump coming out last night saying, so see, bear markets never end in FUD with no euphoria. Exactly. 100% agree. You got Trump coming out last night saying that he wants to unite. The only thing he cares about is the U.S. is number one in crypto. And then we wake up to markets dumping today. It feels like no matter what positive, Fidelity's doing stuff, ETFs are doing stuff, very, very, very positive, and it still feels like we're going down. I saw another thing roll through earlier. It says Orange Man horrible for our bags. What do you think about that, chat? Is Trump good or bad for crypto? I would say arguably I didn't love the meme coin launches, especially the Melania one, but I do think he has done an incredible job moving the industry forward and getting a lot of the standards in place we need to move crypto adoption further, not just in the US, but around the world, making the US a global leader in Bitcoin, specifically talking about a strategic reserve. I do feel like he has delivered every single one of his promises from the campaign trail. Now, you could say good or bad for the world, society, that's a whole other thing. But if you just move it right into crypto, he's delivered on what he said, in my opinion. And in a lot of ways, I think this volatility that we're experiencing and potentially the bearish volatility we're experiencing is actually a result of progress, not moving backwards. If you remember, a lot of times when we get futures ETFs on Bitcoin and Ethereum, that just gives institutions more ways to hedge their positions, manipulate markets, whatever you want to call it, but more financial tools at their disposal in crypto. I think that's what we're experiencing now. I think the big money's coming in, and when they do, they like to get good entries. They don't just let the train run away. It's one of those, Chris Klein from Bitcoin IRA said it, which if you guys haven't checked out Bitcoin IRA, make sure you do so. One of our partners on this channel, Arculus Wallet as well. Code DC20 on Arculus. Bitcoin IRA, just mention Disco Fam and they'll take care of you. But one of those old sayings is when retail misses the boat, they're stuck on the island and they're probably going to drown. When institutional money misses the boat, they bring the boat back around. And I think that's part of what we're experiencing right now is, they're keeping that boat in and they're making sure they all get layered up and levered up and get their bags packed, because this thing is going and they know they can't stop it. So now they got to get on board.
Yeah, and it won't be like the Titanic where they don't jump on.
No, that was FTX, right? They sunk that one already, and that's what they used to get the
Yeah,
Federalist.
it was a cruise missile named Maxine Waters. All right, now speaking of cruise missiles, let's talk about one of the top defense tech billionaire oligarchs. Is he say? I don't know what's going on with this guy, but he had a recent speech. Now I got like the best 20, 30 seconds or so. He's talking about why we aren't pumping and says Bitcoin doesn't have much upside left because it's been co-opted by BlackRock and the government. Let's listen
So
to
when
this.
people in the FBI tell me that they'd much rather have criminals use Bitcoin than $100 bills, it suggests that maybe it's not quite working the way it was supposed to.
Have you sold any of your Bitcoin?
I still hold some. There are all these ways I didn't buy as much as I should have, and I'm not sure it's going to go up that dramatically from here.
From here,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a rough listen. Him like early RFK. It takes a little bit of patience there. But him basically saying, his original thesis, if you see a Peter Thiel essay on Bitcoin from 2014, he says Bitcoin today is no longer what it used to be. And I thought he was a little cagey with, well, did you sell? And he's like, I still have some.
Yeah. And he said, I didn't buy as much as he should have. Now, obviously, he was very early. And that's what's interesting. Almost everybody that holds Bitcoin feels like they should have bought more. I also thought it was interesting. William Shatner was on with Altcoin Daily, and he said something similar in the sense of, I wouldn't tell my loved ones to buy it because I just don't think it's going to go up that much more from here. And it seems very, it's just interesting to hear people like that say something like that when, Peter Thiel more than William Shatner. I kind of understand it with him, but Peter Thiel does understand the way this stuff works, and he does probably see it moving towards being a sovereign store of value. So it is interesting to see him saying that. I do think he knows there's maybe better privacy stuff out there, but I've got a whole other thesis when it comes to privacy projects. It is good to have privacy and money, but it's not necessarily required for it to be your store of value, if that makes sense. Like you can have Bitcoin, and then if you need some privacy, transfer that Bitcoin to Zcash at whatever point in time you do need it, and then operate that way. You don't have to buy and save and store Zcash to ever have privacy. So just putting that out there, and there's other people out there be like, oh, Litecoin has privacy too. Like there's definitely ways to transact digitally with privacy. I don't think that's Bitcoin's number one selling proposition at this point. I do think it's the permissionless. I think that actually is the number one value for a lot of people out there, especially nation states that often get cut out of the world economy. And store value, obviously, and the fact that it's not controlled by any third party, it's decentralized. Like that is the core value proposition for Bitcoin right now, in my opinion. But before we get into too much more news, do you think it's good to bring Crank in and look at some more levels, or do you want to hit a couple more news stories?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and look at some prices, and we'll kind of talk about some of this ETF news and what we have for inflows and crazy alt news. We got to bring up CZ, of course, but yeah, let's bring on Crank out those likes, everybody, for Crypto Crank. Crank, red candles. Let's just jump right into it, man. What do you got for us?
Oh man, I'm watching this and I'm going, golly, Chainlink at $14. Goodness, I was trying to focus on getting on the show with you guys, and I'm getting excited. I'm like, what's going on right now? The line in the sand for me, guys. Let's just go over three quick levels. DZ, earlier you were talking about this huge trend line that we have going all the way back from 49, 50K, all the way up to 75 for another touch. Man, the bullish scenario right now is we need to recover back over to 107, 108, 112, 114, and eventually get to that 118. But if we cannot hold this 107 level right where we're at, it's going to get real ugly for some serious liquidity grabs. Serious liquidity grabs. And that's what I'm looking at right now, is that if Bitcoin can't recover over 107, 108 and hold, then probability tells us that we're going to end up coming down towards this trend line now. As traders, investors, if you guys are looking for good entries for Bitcoin, we got a lot of confluence at this 98,000, and then actually a wick right below would be a huge golden pocket right below it. If these whales and these entities are trying to scare us, we come down, we do the liquidity grab, we come down to this trend line. Right below it is a massive golden pocket, which is the CME gap at 92, 94. to get filled, as well as a massive golden pocket. This is, again, bullish scenario. We in the next week or so, we got to hold this 104, 107, 104 scares me. Otherwise, we're going to end up retesting this wick. But the bearish case scenario is Bitcoin. We come down to this golden pocket. This would be the mother of all liquidity grabs for this run. Not the 19 billion flash crash. Not any of that. I'm talking like a clean TA move for the whales, the entities, the hedge funds, the BlackRocks, the Fidelities.
So what do you mean
guys?
What do you mean when you say that, a clean TA move? Like, you mean
A clean TA
closing
move.
below it?
So what I mean by this is, let's just pull our current fib right now on, let's just say, a 3-day. The reason why this 108 is so important, look at how they're holding this. This is the beginning of it at 108 here, 107. They have been holding this. We're finally breaking through. Our next level is 10. This is a clean move. If you were to just to pull this from here to here, you could see it's the golden pocket from 98. And what a golden pocket means is just it's a fib retracement. Where is that? Where are we likely to get a bounce from? What are these institutions? What is big money looking for a retracement, and where are they going to place those trades? Where are they going to place that money? And so a clean move, you could see Bitcoin has, we held it here. We held it here. Now, when these start to break, you got to start pulling your fibs out a little bit farther. And we could see $92,000 is for one, the CME gap. Two, it's just a clean move of this structure right here. You can see it goes directly into this. So a clean move for me. You can see we come down. Maybe we dip just a tad bit below, kind of scare everybody on this huge trend line, come down into the golden pocket, and then Bitcoin's going to end up putting in its top. For me, based off of, I've been watching a handful of other traders, and there, some really good ones out there. I think the top's going to be in right around 130. I don't think Bitcoin has the juice on it, just off of market cipher momentum. Momentum right now is extremely weak on the 3-day. The weekly, it does not look good. When we were making this top, massive bearish divergence, massive. All right, when this is coming up right here. But again, these 3 days, these weeklies, these 3-week timeframes, Bitcoin can absolutely come down here and just blast.
Well, let me ask you a counter. Keep it on that screen right there. Money flow in November 21, drastic drawdown, but we're not seeing the drastic drawdown on money flow as of yet. Does that give you a little bit of hope here?
It does
look how
give me a little bit of hope.
drawdown is in November compared to today. Today, it's like the money flow. We're talking about the green, juicy wave on the bottom part of the screen. The money flow is not super weak.
It's not. And if you look, DZ, you could see how we had this dip right here, and then it blasted up. It blasted up on the money flow. And if you look, we're actually at the same, almost the very same level right here. Here, exactly the same, where we can have this one last final push. You're really going to know here in the next, everyone keeps talking about 4-year cycles, how the 4-year cycle is broken. We are at decision time in the next 90 days to truly find out if the cycle is different. Is it broken? That decision, everyone's going to have the answer to that question in the next 90 days. Bitcoin, again, could totally come down to 92. That's my line in the sand. If Bitcoin breaks $92,000, I think that the cycle's over with.
And you mean with daily closes, not a wick, right?
Not even a wick. Even if it
a wick to 89 is a nail in the coffin, huh?
It's the nail in the coffin. And the reason I say that is look at just our 4-hour here on Bitcoin. We're getting, in my channel, I was telling everybody, Bitcoin, they like to retest these wicks almost every single time. And Bitcoin's coming down to it now. What we don't want to see is on the altcoins, man. The wick is 50% away right now. Bitcoin, 5%. It's nothing.
Where it wicks, it sticks. Now, I do have a quick question for you here, Crank. We have a $5 super chat from Jimbo Khan. Should he buy Bitcoin or Litecoin? Do you have any thoughts? I don't know if you want to look at LTC, BTC chart on Binance, or just if you have any broad thoughts on Litecoin relative to Bitcoin.
We could look at Litecoin and buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to $1 million. Bitcoin.
That's my answer too.
That's my
Bitcoin's
answer.
going. I hold a lot of Bitcoin. I am a Bitcoin maxi. I'm a Chainlink maxi. You buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's new bottom, I think, for this cycle is going to end up being I think Bitcoin's bottom is going to be between 50 and 60 grand, which again, go out to that weekly, go back to these clean levels. We pull that fib again from our all-time low of this cycle, 15 down here. We have so much confluence right here, guys. Right down 50 grand, 50 to 60 G's would be a huge support flip from the old cycles.
And the current realized price is about $55,000, $56,000.
Look, it's just, you know, everyone has different styles of trading, DZ. I tell my channel, simple trading is the best trading. And the more that the higher this market cap goes for Bitcoin, the more institutionalized it is, which means the better that these tools are going to work. These guys we're not dealing with retail anymore. These guys are buying billions and billions and billions of dollars. Same thing with ETH, with Tom Lee buying hundreds of billions of dollars worth of, or, you know, hundreds of millions on ETH. Let's just look at one more thing real quick. And Bitcoin dominance during this dump, guys. Bitcoin dominance is not topped. This is a weekly. You could see here, the moment we take this out, this thing's going to throw another nasty wick. If we think that the wick's going to stick down below, then the wick's going to stick up above. I think we're going to end up seeing this again. And Bitcoin dominance, when we just saw this huge dip, Chainlink, Avalanche, look at what Bitcoin dominance did, man. This is scary. This is going to just annihilate our coins. If this thing doesn't start reversing and come back down and breaking through these levels, especially 54, this is a huge level right here. This is where I call it a trumpet. Crypto Face's trumpet. You can see right there how it just kind of coils up and then just trumpets out of there. We want to see, if you truly want to see an alt season in the next couple months, you want to see this start to reverse. But again, this is a Bitcoin super cycle. Buy Bitcoin all the way down to 50 grand. Bitcoin loses 50 to 35 grand. It's in failed asset territory. And then by then we could just say, hey, we're all boned.
Yeah. And then that's when we'll start shilling Dogecoin or something. But
Yeah.
Crank, thank you very much. Always a great time. Everybody smash the likes for Crypto Crank. Crank, where can they find your stuff?
Under Real Crypto Crank, under Twitter or X. If you guys want to post my YouTube link, I'll be live probably after this. I'll go live right after this, do some live trading. We like doing a lot of scalp and chills.
Drop the link in the chat and I'll pin it for you, but so people can go follow you more. And he does do a lot of really good. He's got a scalp strategy that he uses that he even posted in the Discord. So what'd you call what's it called again? The scalp strategy.
It's called the Crypto Crank Radical Scalp Method. It's called.
That's what it is.
It's the Radical Scalp Method, guys.
And we're not talking about
30
my
seconds.
radical scalp. It is a little radical. It's a little shiny.
I know, dude. I normally rock a beard, DZ, and my wife's hating my new look right now. I figured I'd dress like a gangster and rock out USA, the Dodgers, chains and everything. My wife's like, dude, I don't like this right now.
Well, we speculate you're the quintessential like New Jersey guy, and you just came in and wanted to exemplify that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And just real quick, guys, this market right now is designed for scalping. I would not be in any set and forgets. I would be inside of the, again, if you guys want to learn the Crypto Crank Radical Scalp Method, I posted it inside of the DC Discord. I have it. I preach it every day. Granddaddy B runs the show. If Bitcoin dumps, everything else dumps, but we could really capitalize on these altcoins and their percentages compared to Bitcoin. And so that's what I would be doing in a market like this, guys. But thanks again for having me.
Thanks.
Awesome. Smash the likes, everybody.
Yeah, appreciate you hopping on. And we really enjoy Crypto Crank. He's one of our long-term members. He's in the Discord, helping people out. Just really appreciate his insights and his willingness to help everybody do well with trading. He's obviously a very successful trader. And it's interesting. I'm not always a pure TA person, but I do love hearing all the different levels and all the different things people have coming in and kind of comparing that to macro and making my assessment. But what he showed there with the Bitcoin dominance thing was interesting to me because I do think we could be going. I mean, many of those levels I agree with. I'm not quite as optimistic to think we would have a 50K Bitcoin opportunity again. Sounds good. But usually it holds up previous cycle all-time high, which would be around 76 or maybe 68, something like that.
Yeah, my prediction for the Bitcoin dominance, we won't close dailies above that, but now after listening to him, I'm like, oh crap, maybe we will, man. Maybe we will. But Bitcoin dominance, was in that parallel channel for a very long time. Lost it August, all the way back in August, but we did wick into it. And he said, we're at wicks of sticks. I say that as well. Oh crap! Now I might have to. I didn't really think about the wick on the 11. That might be an area where we end up coming down, and so Bitcoin dominance could get a little dicey, folks.
Yeah, and
If
I
you're in
see
alts.
Seth Shepard here. We have thousands of people watching here, only 277 likes. If you guys would please smash that like button for us. Sometimes you have to, if you're watching on your phone, exit out of the live chat and do that. And then while you're hitting that like button, I am curious to hear from our audience. Do you guys like TA stuff? Do you want to see us bring on more TA people in the future? Are you more of a macro investor? Yeah, I see this guy saying 50K Bitcoin won't happen again. I tend to agree. I think, again, high 60s is our best bet, but I think it's going to get I'm still in the camp that I do think this 100K level, 98K level will hold. I don't think it's going to, there's definitely a lot of buyers anytime we get near that 100K level. Even right now, 105.4. I mean, it's just looking juicy. I can't wait to jump off here and get on with Coinbase and say, where the heck is my money so I can start buying this stuff? Because we
got to deploy, man. We got to deploy. All right. Well, I think we did enough bearish news. People want to get talked off the edge. Crypto Crank. I had a little bit more bearishness, but now it's time to turn the corner here. Let's offer some hope. Let's offer a little hopium. I want you to slake your thirst off DZ's liquid hopium here, folks. Let's just move on. Strategy did acquire some more Bitcoin. They got $45 million worth, came in at 114. Maybe that's the bottom. Every time he buys and posts on the Monday, like it dumps on that Monday. So maybe we'll get a little bit lucky here. And, talking about the amount of Bitcoin from these OGs, from these long-term holders, the market absorbed 400,000 Bitcoin. This is just kind of a optimistic take. So you could say, instead of whales dumping, the market absorbed 400K Bitcoin and OG supply being sold and still kept above 100,000. Whatever you feel, that shows strength. And eventually the slowing will sell down, glass half full. And also, you kind of think about that long-term holder chart. I mean, eventually the long-term holder chart needs to move up as well. So we might see some positivity. And this is also just a good assessment here. My God, this sentiment is wild. Came back after a nice weekend away to all this. Man, so many are capitulating right before full-scale liquidity global injection. Bros, bear markets don't start on the precipice of global liquidity expansion. This entire cycle has been built on a liquidity restrictive environment, which is why only Bitcoin has made new all-time highs. This happened via adoption and acceptance. Crypto is a vehicle of liquidity. We haven't had it. This is why the cycle is delayed, because the business cycle has been delayed. Altcoins need it. They need the liquidity. Crypto is the riskiest asset class and requires positive liquidity to reach its potentials, which is why it isn't moving yet. So if you're calling for a bear market, or you think the bear market starts here, you need to understand the liquidity situation within the macro environment. Raoul Pal kind of doubling down on that. I want to give you a small fragment when I sit down what I wrote this weekend for his paid investment group. Crypto's driven by liquidity. For total 2 is going to be all altcoins, or all crypto market, excluding stable coins in the top 2, Bitcoin, ETH. For all of this to break higher, you need liquidity for new all-time highs. The government shut down and the Treasury general account delayed, but kind of, just cut to here, the liquidity flood is building, and the government reopening will be the start of a liquidity injection from the Treasury balance sheet, People's Bank of China balance sheet, from the bank reserve balance sheets to the end of quantitative tightening and more. Macro is a long game, and you need patience for it to play out. So Raoul Pal also saying the liquidity environment, the macro environment, and then TJ, I'll pass it to you right after this. The kickstart, the flame, that mockingbird sound, and Katniss Everdeen. What is the ground spark of this revolution? Well, the ground spark is going to be the Clarity Act. We have a senator saying it will be put to vote by November 27th. Boom. There you go. This could be the start of that liquidity cycle that we need.
Yeah, I agree. You could sense I was about to hop in there. This is obviously something I'm watching very, 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 very closely, is what's going on with the Fed, what's going on with the overnight emergency funding and all that sort of stuff, what's going on with banks, and they're all running out of liquidity. And when banks all run out of money, that's when markets get extremely tight. And I think that's what, especially risk on assets, which again, crypto, Bitcoin is somewhat establishing itself as a hedge, but by many measures, it's still considered a risk-on asset. But definitely, altcoins, anything outside of Bitcoin, is extremely risk-on as far as people are concerned. So we are absolutely in that tight region for risk-on assets. And Lynn Alden, obviously, many of you guys know who she is. Great macroeconomist, is talking about this. All the QE, QT, strategic overnight funding, repo stuff that's happening now is basically just like back in 2019, which is, again, you guys have been hearing me say this same thing for a while. It feels a lot like the end of 2019. And again, December 2019, this is when the QT was really rough. The Fed was trying to shrink their balance sheet. So here's for perspective, 2008 right here. Here's the great financial crisis. Fed had to step in and massively grow their balance sheet to stabilize basically all markets, all economy. They slightly started to get off the gas, say, hey, actually, we want to shrink a little bit. And the entire system almost collapsed. All banks almost went under, and they said, okay, we're going to go back to funding it again. And this was late 2019 was when they saw the repo spike, the repurchase overnight markets spiking, banks basically saying, hey, we need money and we don't have any liquidity. And then by 2020, boom, straight up. Now, this is COVID. This was March of 2020 is when we saw the massive expansion of the balance sheet, and that ran all the way until 2021. And then they've been more or less tapering down again ever since, right? And we've been seeing ever since November 21, markets crashing. It's been very, very tough to get out of this cycle. Now they've said just recently, as of December, they're going to stop quantitative tightening, and they're trying to show strength. They're trying to act like, oh, we're not going to go straight into easing. Everything's okay. We're going to be fine. Here's kind of a zoomed in picture of that same graph where QT ended, and then when they got to QE. And can you let me see if I can make this bigger for me? And you'll see, March basically is when it started, but then it really started to show up in the charts in like May. And that's when like Bitcoin and all sorts of other assets really started taking off again. And I'm just doing that based on memory. Now, what they're looking at, and she kind of called this a year ago. If you go back to this, fast forward, she basically back here said the Fed had to pivot from QT to QE in 2019 in response to the repo spike. And, she goes into a lot more detail, but basically predicting they're not going to be able to shrink as long as they want. This was in
April 24.
Yeah. And now she's saying we're right here, right? We, fast forward a year and a half, and this is where we are. They're wanting to shrink their balance sheet. They're having to get off the gas, and they're going to have to get back up into the easing environment again. They're going to have they're going to do a lot of gymnastics. They're going to have a lot of fancy words that they use. They're not going to necessarily come out and say quantitative easing. They're going to say liquidity injections. They're going to say using mortgage, we're injecting liquidity into some of the mortgage-backed securities. We're doing this, we're doing that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be money printing. You've also got the Treasury, Scott Bessent, sitting on a much higher balance sheet than he's used to having. And actually, in some ways, this government shutdown is helping juice that balance sheet. It's going up a lot because of the spending's going down. And so as soon as they open back up, that liquidity is coming back into the market. We're seeing the Treasury, which again, none of this stuff really makes sense from a actual practical financial management perspective. But yes, the U.S. Treasury sometimes becomes the buyer of its own debt. And so we're going to start to see that happening again. And so all of those macro reasons is part of why I'm still long Bitcoin, why I still have some conviction that we will see, Bitcoin rise into November, December. I do think it's going to get scarier. I do think we've got a couple more weeks before that opens up. I mean, there's a lot of...
Oh, man. Not only that, we got very low liquidity holiday weekends coming up. And things can get very, very scary. But that's also where you get those crazy Q4 pumps. Are sometimes during these, I remember some like Christmas Eve pumps and some Thanksgiving Saturday pumps. So it can definitely happen.
Low liquidity can be used to pump or dump things. Because
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And we do have this. I did want to mention on Polymarket. You see, we've still got 54% odds that the government, when will the government shutdown end? This is saying after November 16th. Now you add all these other ones up and it's, again, it's close to 50-50 that it'll be before November, but odds are, it's definitely odds are in favor of it being longer than November 16th. And that's when I saw market structure bill or Clarity Act getting passed, basically right up around Christmas time. That leads me to believe other people in the industry or in government kind of have the same sense of feeling that it's going to be late November, not early November. I think they're going to push us to the breaking point. They're going to scare a lot of markets. Again, it's almost always when the banks are about to collapse. And this is kind of what's a little bit scary when you really understand the way everything's being run is they really are, banks are broke, sitting on insane unrealized losses, and they cannot survive without a liquidity injection. There's that small part of me that thinks like, oh, maybe they'll let it collapse this time and we really will go into Armageddon type chaos, but they never do. And it would actually wreck a lot of things around the world. So I'm betting hard Fed steps back in, whether that starts in November and materializes in early 2026. I do think we see a late November, December rally. And I think that continues into 2026. That's why I'm in the camp that the 4-year cycle will be ending. It is going to be tied to the Fed's liquidity cycle. But there you go. I'll stop ranting.
So sum it up for TJ. Everybody go withdraw your cash from banks. Let's create a bank run and force the government to juice up the markets with stealth QE. All right, let's talk about time for someone to get CZ'd by DZ. That's right, DZ by CZ, rather. Aster is a disaster, and some say this man is a bastard. I don't know anything about his father, probably a good guy. But Aster pumped after Binance CZ shared a screenshot saying that he owed over 2 million Aster tokens. Now, we've talked about Aster a lot. We don't need to go into the ins and outs. Let's just go straight to the tweets here. Full disclosure, I bought some Aster today, used my own money on Binance. I'm not a trader. I buy and hold. Now, he's only posted about 2 tokens ever, TJ, and that's BNB. Said he bought shortly after the ICO, and Bitcoin. So this is going into a very short list. Now, shortly after, people pointed out, oh my God, he created the CZ candle. Actually wicked up to, I think, 122 on some markets there. And then he gave out this one, like a NFT founder in 2021 or something. Damn, I was hoping to buy some more at low prices, laughing face emoji. I had a DZ him, Disco fam. The same, tell me the difference in energy. This is the, didn't know I'd pump it up. Just the richest guy in crypto, only saying this is the 3rd coin I've ever bought. Definitely some Zac Efron pre-face change vibes right there. Now, I don't know if you have any thoughts on Aster. It's right now trading around $1. It's probably down now.
I'm sure
let's actually look at
it did. Woo! I know it pumped on that tweet and didn't hold. So I mean, I still hold some. I was in at like 50 cents. But yeah, I mean, there it is right there. CZ pumps it, and then it just
right back to where it started, basically. I mean, you can say it's a slightly higher low, but I mean, we're really splitting hairs.
Well, yeah, it doesn't feel bullish when like you said, the richest guy in crypto, can't hardly pump a coin, and people sell on that pump rather than it continues to pump. So.
Tyler Durden, pretty popular on CT. He was, I liked him. Very active in 2017. Amide CZ interacting with or even tweeting about a coin or a coin he's not involved with as a warning. You get 1,000% candle. This is bear market behavior with this weird British spelling. But CZ asked a question. Saw quite a bit of over interpretation from my disclosure yesterday in the future. Should he disclose or not disclose? Chat, type in D or ND or disclose, not disclose. Let us know. Should he post his buys or keep the lips sealed here?
Right, because basically people he's saying everybody's getting mad at him for coming out and tweeting like, oh, I bought this coin, and then it's like, then if he was to buy it and not say anything about it, people are like, oh, he's trying to manipulate, he's being shady. So yeah, he's kind of in that like lose-lose scenario as a big founder and creator. But yeah,
everybody's saying disclose.
He should disclose. Okay, so he did nothing wrong tweeting that he bought some Aster.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
I would agree too. I think one of the things he does well is transparency, and I don't think there's anything wrong with transparency, and that's kind of what this space is built on. So, sure, if he's now, the problem comes in if you only disclose one side. So the question is he going to is he going to sell, or has he sold, and is he disclose? He should disclose his buys and his sells, and obviously. If he was to come out and say like, oh, hey, I ended up selling all of my Aster, then the chart would probably just tank immediately. I know I would sell
Kind of
all
like FTX in 2022. Selling all my FTX, and we know how that ended up. And some are saying he should be in jail. Well, SBF is the one in jail, and I don't think CZ should be in jail for not
no.
aggressively asking for a picture of my license. You know, I downloaded, or I signed in or created a Binance account back in 2020, I think, to buy ADA. This is where I first bought ADA, and I never used it again. Pulled the ADA off there, and I mean, it helped me out. You know, I don't know if I was getting in at 2 cents, but I got in fairly cheap, basically today's price. I'm just kidding. No, it was like 15 cents. But
I did want to mention this real quick. I forgot to pull it up. I was talking about the strategic overnight funding rate. Lawrence Leopard, his book, The Big Print, great book if you haven't checked it out yet. But he's highlighting exactly what's going on and seeing these spikes. I mean, this is how it was getting used before, but now it's really getting tapped, meaning banks really need liquidity. And so again, this is the same thing that Lynn Alden post was talking about. This is just kind of a more easy to see visualization of like, yeah, it's getting dramatically, the use and volumes are going up dramatically compared to where it was previously. So.
All right. Well, let's talk about a little video we did, folks. And I'm talking about Zcash. We got Arthur Hayes still saying some crazy ass predictions here, man. He says Zcash can hit 20% of the value of Bitcoin very quickly. Well, we did a video on Zcash and we do the math for 2%. Now, the reason we did the math for 2% is because other privacy coins previously have reached about 2% of Bitcoin's market cap. So if you're interested in some moon math, is 10K possible? I'll just say I came to a different number doing the math, but Zcash at 2% of Bitcoin, massively undervalued at $370. So watch that Zcash video if you haven't already. If you don't know, folks, we put out a lot of uploads as well. You got to turn on notifications. So if you don't have notifications and you are watching live on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you go ahead and turn that on. Now, just brief news. There was a balancer exploit. So a DeFi project. I don't think too many of you guys are using Balancer, but it looks like they walked away with about $100 million. Looking like the address is now, we don't know if it's Balancer or not, but they might be asking the hacker offering 20 million if you return what I think is about 120 million as of the prices right now. So just be careful if you're using that. That kind of brings me to this DeFi then versus DeFi now. This is DeFi total value locked 3 years ago. And just looking at the top, we'll do top 4: ETH, BNB, Tron, Avalanche. Fast forward today: ETH, Solana, BNB, Bitcoin. And now Base is on there. Wasn't on there before. We see Hype on there. Hype. Crow, not on there. Phantom, not on there. And then we see basically everybody migrating from Matic over to probably Base.
Yeah, Phantom, now Sonic, also caught up in some of that same balancer stuff because it uses similar coding or something. So
yeah, I saw a little bit on that. Now, this is kind of going ahead of my skis right here, but apparently the hacker used ChatGPT or other LLM hacking coding tools. And there's apparently, how like when an LLM writes a post, you can see the double dash.
Dashes, yeah.
There are signs in coding of the very same thing where it's like, oh, this is clearly only an LLM would put this in the code. They say the guy used freaking ChatGPT to hack 100 million.
Not surprising. I mean, the tools are getting out there for writing code all sorts of different ways. This is, again, there's a lot of risk in DeFi right now, especially if you get outside of the major protocols like Aave. And again, you guys know I love Aerodrome and Morpho, but a lot of times you see these juicy yields out there. The lower down you go on these juicy yields, the more likely there are to be exploits. Not saying it's not worth doing. We were talking with somebody in the Discord, and really the risk is where the opportunity is. So over the next 10 years or so, as these things get tightened up and billions and billions and billions start flowing into DeFi, obviously the security is going to get better, but the yields are going to go down. And so you've got, I think, about 10 to 15 years of really big opportunity in DeFi, but you just need to, I would just say, be mindful anytime you're moving into any kind of other protocol that you're not used to, or if you don't see many billions locked up. And again, Balancer wasn't small. It was not insignificant. And there's a lot of things that come out and run and do well for years. And then you see these exploits. Now, again, $100 million isn't going to break an entire ecosystem, generally speaking, but it's not insignificant. And then you need to revoke your wallets. And, anytime you're connecting to these bridges, there's all sorts of different ways that they can get funds these days. So the opportunity, where the risk is, there is opportunity, but just you need to be aware that there is risk, especially if you're working with a substantial amount of money. Also, over the weekend, a lot of negative stuff coming out about MEXC. They had frozen somebody's wallets. People were having a hard time with withdrawals. They've come out now and said, oh, here's our proof of reserves. We're all good. But then even AIXBT was referencing they for a brief period were offering 600% yield on Tether. They were desperately trying to get new Tether in there, which is likely to pay out other people. So I don't use MEXC. I know some of you guys in the community use it because I've seen you guys posting screenshots from it. So if it were me and my funds, based on what I've seen with things like Celsius and Terra Luna and many other exchanges that have gone down in the past, I would be withdrawing all of my funds from MEXC. There's plenty of other places out there to trade. You can use Blowfin. The link's in the description. They've got liquidity. They've got all the altcoin pairs. And they held up. They were one of the main ones that held up and didn't stop trades or withdrawals or anything during the liquidation event a few weeks ago. So for me, I would not be trading on MEXC right now if I were you. I'm just putting that out there.
All right, now I got one bit of bad news, two bits of good news to wrap it up. What order should we do? Should we do the bad sandwich? Good, bad, good. Should we? Good.
Give me the sandwich.
We'll do the sandwich here, folks. All right, number one.
Actually. Give me bad first and then wrap it up.
All right. Well, XRP, the line in the sand is there, and you're knocking on the door of disaster town. This is the 50-week moving average on XRP. And if you look at the candles with the recent dip, you are flirting with a very, very scary area. So XRP bulls must hold this line. Otherwise, things start looking like bear market territory, folks. Last time you could see here during the bull market, kind of was the beginning of the end for XRP. So XRP at about the most major inflection point. Did that just get a little bit closer? Maybe that was a zoom there. All right, that's the bad news. XRP, you're close to death's door. Good news, we got Michael Scott bullish on Avalanche. This is Michael Scott from Dunder Mifflin. I'm kidding. He's the co-CEO of Coinbase, and he's giving a big shout out to Avalanche, saying Avalanche is just crushing it with the digital asset treasury strategy. And we're starting to see Avalanche start to pop up the top of a lot of these metrics. So Avalanche might be looking at something bullish. Now, the final bit of good news here. AI could be what leads us to the next level. Thought about this. I was like, how can these idiot billionaires be so convinced AI is going to create this business super cycle? Then I had to reassess, well, maybe they're not idiots. Maybe they actually do kind of know what they're talking about. There's a lot of theses out there on why AI will continue to run. I have it broken down. You see Amazon inking a big deal with OpenAI, supply NVIDIA chips. You look at Amazon, it pumped Friday, it pumped Monday. Very important that it pumped Monday, following a weekend pump there, showing sign that the markets have digested this news and continue to think it's bullish. But the CEO of Microsoft, Gutierrez here, there he goes right there. He just kind of looks smart. If I'm going to be honest, I don't do craniology I don't go there, but I think a doctor from the dark ages would be like, oh, this guy's a wizard. Like, this is a warlock 100%. Is he 500 years old? We don't know. He's got lightning coming out of his face? But anyways, here's his points on AI. Just made one of the most revealing comments of the entire AI cycle. He said Microsoft has GPUs from NVIDIA sitting on racks unused. They cannot be turned on because there's not enough energy. The real constraint is not compute. It is power. So that might make you think, well, NVIDIA sales are going to slow down. But the other point is, well, no, we're going to have to keep buying these. They don't want to overbuy one generation of GPUs because the refresh cycle is shortening as NVIDIA releases faster chips every year, which means the useful life of a GPU now depends on how quickly it can be deployed in production, because now you got the next model always knocking on the door. So the AI economy will scale at the rate power comes online, not at the rate chips improve. And we're starting to see a lot of bullish things regarding power, specifically in China, India, places with a little bit less regulation. They don't take 10, 20 years to build a nuclear power plant. China's forward growth rate is there's a nuclear power plant coming online every single month. I think until 2030 is kind of what the rate they're at. So we're about to see power scale exponentially. We're seeing AI chips are needing to be bought just consistently. And so this AI bubble might be far from popping.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It ties directly into Bitcoin because Bitcoin is energy-backed currency, right? And so as energy becomes more valuable, more scarce, it's going to get a really interesting network effect. Because I do agree, we're going to see nuclear go nuclear, as they say, and I do think we're going to see a lot of those reactors come up. It's also a pretty clear indication. You know, obviously we're an investing channel. We talk a lot about Bitcoin and crypto, but investing in energy sector is probably a good idea. We talked about that last week. They're pretty much giving you the playbook of like AI, crypto, and energy. If you invest in those areas, you'll probably perform extremely well. So yeah.
All right. There you go, folks. All right. Well, smash the like button on the way out.
Well, I want to ask them. I want to hear chat's final prediction. After everything we went over today, let us know. Do we continue? Is it over? Are we heading back down below 100K? Do you think we bounce and maintain rally from here? Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments. DZ, what
is 98? I could see 98.
You could see 98. Okay, so 98.
People called me an idiot for saying that 2 months ago.
Yeah,
now starting to feel a little bit more real, a little bit more.
But
scary.
if we hit 98, do you think we're going back down to 69, or do you think we recover into 2026?
I do think 69 won't be the floor for the bear market. I do come in a little bit more bearish than most. I do think we can hit 60, 55. I think we come in, and I think the money printers are, stealth QE, whatever you want to call it. I think we are going to go into risk on equities are going to go higher. So I think Bitcoin's going higher. I don't think 125 was the top. I don't think some a-hole from 4chan is going to accurately predict it years ago. It just can't be that simple.
So when you say go higher, you're saying
125
this year, maybe next year?
3 to 5 months. It might take, maybe January, but
6 months or less.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're seeing a very mixed crowd. So I was just curious to see what the chat thinks. I love kind of getting retail sentiment. A lot of people saying it's going down. This guy's very confident. I've been seeing him going off in the chat. 140K this month.
Yeah, bet on Polymarket. He has the inside info. Michigan nationalist sounds like he might be in a militia. I don't know. Maybe he knows.
He says he's a statistician. I was seeing some. I didn't see all of it rolling through, but I saw he was getting into it with somebody in the chat. I missed exactly what they were talking about, but he also said government shutdown will end this week. So we'll see if that happens.
I never said 90 was the top. I've long been consistent. 1.75x from 69K, which kind of gives us where we're at today. And that came from, we went to a 20x, talking about bear market top to bear market top, 20x, then became a 7x, which became a 3.5x. So if you cut 20K to 69K, that's a 3.5x. If you cut that in half, you get 1.75. 1.75 times 70. That gave us right kind of where we're at, 120-ish. So
it is true. We are all retail. That's why I like to get the retail sentiment. So and us included. So we're all in this together. And I do like what Crank said: buy Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, trade everything else. And we got Kelly and Drew coming this afternoon. We'll see you guys at the top. We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.